There's a lot going on in the world of Magic the Gathering right now. Wizards of the Coast has just changed how crewing vehicles works. On top of that, we have a number of Kamigawa problems to discuss. And that's not even all the news we have to talk about today.
Magic.
I am a wizard!
History.
I'm an old wizard!
The Magic Historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends, I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for another installment of Mega Magic News. We have a number of items to talk about. I have a whole list of things for us to discuss. So let's dive right in. The first thing that I want to talk about is the change to the vehicle crew rule. Wizards of the Coast has decided to modify the rule, but only slightly. So, how it used to work was, when you crew a vehicle, you tap creatures with enough power to equal the crew amount, boom, that vehicle is crewed. But you were also allowed to tap a vehicle to crew itself, which is a very nonsensical concept. We're already dealing with ridiculous stuff when it comes to vehicles being crewed, right? I'm gonna take my dragon and have it drive my little train down the street. Beep, beep, like it's already pretty silly, but it's like, I'm gonna have my dragon drive the train, and then I'm gonna have the train also tap to drive the train. It's like, so they're both inside, like, it's this weird sort of flavor concept that has been crunched down by them closing that rules loophole. Well, it's not really a loophole, but that sort of a weird rule shenanigan stuff. So going forwards, you can no longer tap a vehicle to crew itself. I mean, not a massive change, but an interesting one. So, the next item on the list, we talked about Hatsune Miku recently, right? So, there has been an actual song released based on the world of Kamigawa. If you want to go and check it out, it's like 3 minutes long or whatever. It's here on YouTube. It seems like when it comes to the Hatsune Miku fans, they're all over it. I genuinely don't know what Magic players have to say, because when I went to see the video, it was literally like flooded with tons of her fans, and not as many Magic players had made it there yet, but it definitely is an interesting experience to see like a Japanese android pop idol Vocaloid flying above the city of Kamigawa, the new version of Kamigawa, kind of just flinging magic cards about. It is a somewhat surreal experience. 2022 is an interesting time to be a Magic historian, let's put it that way. So, you've got the Hatsune Miku thing, and I strongly suspect that we're going to be getting a Hatsune Miku secret lair, right? I expect we're going to get something with her on the actual cards, because there's a ton of people who would 100% be interested in that. But that part isn't news. That's totally just my thoughts on the subject. And I'm expecting at some point this month, real soon actually, to be getting a secret lair announcement for that, for the newest astrology one, and probably a whole super drop. But we'll cover that when it actually happens. So, there have been some problems with Kamigawa. Now, these are minor card-specific problems. We're not talking about product delays or anything of that nature. We're just talking about cards that didn't turn out as intended. And the first one is Jin Gitaxias, who is just missing the Phyrexian watermark. I mean, that's not a huge problem. It doesn't actually affect the gameplay ability of the card, but at the same time, having these Phyrexian watermarks is sweet. It ties all the Phyrexian cards together for people who may not be aware of who Phyrexia is. And I do have to laugh as well, because now Jin Gitaxias, in a way, is incomplete because he's missing the Phyrexian symbol. And Phyrexians are all about completion. So there is a little cute element to that in that regard. Now, the other card where they've made a mistake is actually with the Seven-Tailed Mentor. So, how it works is specifically with the German version of this card. I'll put the English and German version up for you to take a look at. It basically revolves around the trigger. So this card is supposed to trigger both when it comes into play and when it dies. But unfortunately, the German version only triggers on coming into play. And that obviously considerably changes the power level of this card, which is already just a draft level whatever card. So, I mean, it's unfortunate to have a card that already doesn't feel super exciting get downgraded even further accidentally. So, since we're looking at cards, I want to show you the bonus Secret Lair card from the Secret Lair Extra Life, the one that was drawn by children. This is the Questing Feldegriff, which is a ridiculous hippo card. If you're not familiar with the idea, Feldegriffs first showed up in Magic the Gathering all the way back in the days of Visions. We got a random little pygmy hippo, just a little tutu that's like, hey, I'm here to mess with your mana. And it was such a fun little concept that years later they decided to make a questing Feldegriff. So this is a hippo that goes on quests. And it has 3 different color abilities, and their abilities, they're very strange. It's like a trade-off kind of thing where I can get a benefit, but I have to give somebody something in return, right? So basically for 1 green, you get +1/+1 until end of turn, but then an opponent gets a 1/1 hippo token. And for a white, you basically give it pro-red and pro-black, which are the best protections to have because it stops creature destruction, right? And then you have to give an opponent 2 life. Or for a blue, you can give it flying, and then an opponent draws a card. So admittedly, when this card came out, most people didn't really want to mess around with it too much because the downside was too big. Giving you a 1/1 hippo just to give my guy +1/+1 is mostly going to feel like a bad deal. I'm only going to use that when it's really to my advantage, maybe to pump to finish you off. Sure, you get the tokens, but now who cares because the game's over. So this card originally was panned. It wasn't very good, but Commander grows in popularity, and all of a sudden, you've got a card where you can just make a bunch of friends, where it's like, hey, I'm going to pump my guy, and if you treat me right, I'm going to give you sweet little hippo tokens. And you can do the same thing with life and card draw. You can feed life, card draw, and tokens around the table, which really does make this a far more appealing card. Now, this one is different than the other ones in the Extra Life Secret Lair because the child version, and I'm saying that with air quotation marks here, the child version was actually done by Mark Rosewater. So when you get the Secret Lair, you get both versions of these. You get the sketch variation and the full-on art variation. The idea of a hippo flying along with a cape there is a fun concept. It really does give the idea of a questing Feldegriff. So that fits in pretty well overall to the concept. Admittedly, I like the ones that are drawn by kids more because it has an extra level of charm to it. So there is something else I want to talk about in regards to the Secret Lairs, and that is specifically the Secret Lair Stranger Things. So we talked about the contents of that Secret Lair in the past, but now that the Secret Lairs are making their way out into people's hands, someone has noticed there is a cool little tweak to a few of the cards in that Secret Lair where the backs of the cards are actually put on upside down, right? And that's a reference to the concept of the upside down from Stranger Things. So it's a nice little nod, and it might actually be something people will think is a mistake. So if you get this Secret Lair and you notice the card backs on some of these cards are upside down, that is intentional. On the other side of things, talking about unintentional things, we have the Commander Collection Black. There have been a number of reports of some very serious quality issues with Commander Collection Black. And this is really unfortunate because let's be genuine about what Commander Collection Black is. It is a very expensive product that is essentially, and I've said this before, a signature spellbook reskinned. They used to do signature spellbooks. We had one for Jace, Gideon, and Chandra. I don't know if they did any others, but we had those 3 at least. And they were basically a sampling of cards based around that Planeswalker. And it's a handful of cards very similar to the Commander's Collection, where it's basically like, here's 8 cards. And they would pick 1 card in the signature spellbook at random and make it foil. And now the Commander Collection comes along, and you can get a foil version or a regular version, if they're doing the Commander Collection Black the same way they did the green one. And you're paying roughly 3 to 4 times the price for this product. So when you have these quality issues, It's completely unacceptable. They're selling you essentially 8 cards. It's like a double secret lair in a way. You're getting 8 cards, you're paying twice the cost of a normal secret lair, roughly. I mean, it'll depend on where you are, but that is a good generalized way of looking at it. So these quality issues are a serious thing that you need to be aware of with this product. First of all, it's never okay for there to be quality issues anywhere in Magic the Gathering products. But when I'm getting a handful of specifically made cards, they need to all be in pristine condition. It's unacceptable, right? So that is the last little bit of news that I wanted to cover, aside from the news that you may not know already, that we are back to live streaming, doing the early live streams over on my Hatcher channel. So if you want to come by and hang out, there'll be a link on the screen for you. And I'll leave a link to my Magic the Gathering lore channel as well. You should check out the Brothers War storyline. It is fantastic. Best storyline in all of Magic. I'll leave a link to the start of the playlist for you for that as well. Thanks for coming by, my friends. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you guys at the beginning of the week.